So, what is any respectable girl brought up to do but to catch some rich man's fancy and get the benefit of his money by marrying him? As if a marriage ceremony made any difference in the right or the wrong of the thing. Ah, the hypocrisy of the world makes me sick. That's Mrs. Warren from Shaw's 1893 play Mrs. Warren's Profession. She's an ex-prostitute turned brothel keeper, and when her Girton-educated daughter finds out and is horrified by this, she confronts her with the below living standard wages and atrocious working conditions that women face, and says, so the only trade, in effect, that society allows to women is being kept by a man, pleasing a man and living off his money. And whether that's inside or outside of marriage, she says, makes no difference at all. That argument became a central tenet of feminist campaigns and suffrage campaigns through the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th centuries. So, for example, Cicely Hamilton, a leading suffragist at the beginning of the 20th century, wrote in her polemic Marriage as a Trade in 1909, for woman, who has always been far more completely excluded than man from direct access to the necessities of life, who has often been barred both by law and custom from the possession of property, one form of payment was demanded, and one only. It was demanded of her that she should enkindle and satisfy the desire of the male, who would thereupon admit her to such share of the property he possessed or earned as should seem good to him. In other words, she exchanged, by the ordinary process of barter, possession of her body for the means of existence. As Hamilton says, prostitution is thus only the logical conclusion of this state of affairs. And she further warns that while men think that women only exist to become wives and partners and mothers, they have a rude awakening when it comes to romance. As she puts it, someday he will discover that woman does not support life only in order to obtain a husband, but frequently obtains a husband only in order to support life. Now, makes a good polemical argument, but hardly makes a particularly good theatre. So there are a lot of pamphlets and so on written on this form, and there were a number, like Shaw's Mrs. Warren's Profession, of plays written around the beginning of the 20th century in which women turned to prostitution to support themselves and support their families. Problem with these were not only they didn't make terribly good box office, but also they didn't get a license for public performance. So, what I want to offer you is one play which managed to take this argument and put it together with, well, it was subtitled A Romantic Comedy. It's Cicely Hamilton's play, Diana of Dobson's, and it was really good box office. It opened in February 1908 at Lena Ashwell's Kingsway Theatre, ran for 143 performances straight off, and was only taken off so that Ashwell could have a rest before taking it on tour. It was frequently revived, and in 1917 it was made into a film. So how did Ashwell do it? Well, the play opens in the living-in system, dormitory, so that a large part of the workers' wages are paid in board and lodging. And the first act has the exhausted workers in a large drapery firm coming in and getting ready for bed. And it's kind of reverse Cinderella. So they come in looking like attractive, beautiful, young, nubile shop girls, specially designed to market the goods, and they take off the false hair, the false curls, the ribbons, the collars, the cuffs, all the rest of it, and get into their very unattractive nighties, all without, as the critics, the male critics, complained about the sensational nature of this scene, and also complained that no flesh was seen, and as one critic put it, the various stages of undress are not made pretty. He's clearly very disappointed by this, failing to see the point of it. And one particular worker, Diana of Dobson's, rages against the impoverishment of their life, the fact that their meagre wages buy them for 14 hours work a day for 5 shillings a week. It's less than £14 a year, which leaves them in effect no life. Their bodies, everything else are in effect bought by the firm to help sell their goods. At this point, the fairy godmother intervenes, and